The Galactic Academy's xenobiology classroom fell silent as Instructor Vexthor, a towering Quillarian with iridescent scales, displayed a holographic image of a human skeletal structure. His mandibles clicked with amusement. And this, students, brings us to the most peculiar species recently admitted to the Galactic Council, Homo sapiens, Vexthor announced, his three eyes gleaming with barely concealed condescension. Despite their primitive appearance, they claim to be apex predators on their homeworld. A ripple of chittering laughter spread through the assembled students, beings from 40 different worlds, most of them herbivorous or filter feeders. Susan Martinez sat in the back row, her dark eyes fixed on her datapad, jaw clenched. She'd grown accustomed to this treatment over the past 3 months at the academy. Humans were the newcomers, the oddities, the species that somehow survived on a death world without the common sense to evolve past their violent nature. "Instructor?" came a crystalline voice from the front. It was Crystallia, a silicon-based life form from Quartz Prime. "The human digestive system, is it true they can process both plant and animal matter?" "Ah, yes." Vexthor's enthusiasm was palpable. "The humans are what they call omnivores, a desperate evolutionary adaptation, really. Their world was so hostile that they had to consume anything to survive." He paused dramatically. "They even claim their ancestors hunted creatures many times their size, using nothing but primitive tools and persistence." More laughter erupted. The very idea seemed absurd to species that had evolved in harmony with their environments. "With respect, Instructor." Susan's voice cut through the noise, steady and clear. "That's not just a claim. It's documented fact." Vexthor's scales rippled, the Quillarian equivalent of a dismissive shrug. "Ms. Martinez, I mean no offense to your species, but the idea that soft-skinned, slow-moving humans could be effective predators is quaint. You lack venom, natural armor, speed, claws, and we have intelligence," Susan interrupted, rising from her seat, "and endurance. And something you might not understand, hunger. Vexthor's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "My dear, every species experiences nutritional requirements. Not like us." The tension in the room thickened. Lucas Chen, another human student and Susan's friend, shifted uncomfortably in his seat 2 rows ahead. He'd seen that look in Susan's eyes before, the one that said she was done being diplomatic. "Perhaps a demonstration would be educational," Vexthor suggested, his tone dripping with patronizing charm. "The Academy cafeteria serves a variety of foods. Why don't you show us this fearsome human appetite?" Susan's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I'd be happy to, Instructor." 20 minutes later, the xenobiology class had relocated to the Academy's central cafeteria. Word had spread, and students from other sections gathered to witness the spectacle. Lucas tried to reach Susan as she walked toward the food dispensers, but she waved him off. "What would you like, Ms. Martinez?" Vexthor asked, gesturing to the various stations. "Perhaps some nice synthesized algae? Mineral supplements?" "What's that?" Susan pointed to a sectioned-off area marked with warning symbols. A Krell student, reptilian and massive, answered nervously. "That's the restricted section. For species with extreme dietary requirements. Carnivorous beings. The Krell homeworld has apex predators," Susan noted. "You must understand the concept. We evolved from prey animals," the Krell admitted. "We remember the terror in our genetic memory." Susan approached the restricted section and examined the options. Behind transparent barriers were various protein sources, some synthesized, others preserved from different worlds. Her eyes settled on a massive rib section from a Thorian megabeast, typically reserved for the few obligate carnivores in the Academy. "I'll take that," she said, pointing. The cafeteria fell absolutely silent. "Ms. Martinez." Vexthor's voice had lost its amused edge. "That is raw meat, unprocessed, dangerous bacteria." "My stomach acid has a pH of 1.5, Susan stated flatly, retrieving the massive rib. "It can dissolve metal. Bacteria don't stand a chance." She carried the rib to a central table. The meat was dark red, still fresh from preservation, clinging to bones that looked almost white in the harsh cafeteria lighting. It had to weigh at least 5 kilograms. Lucas closed his eyes, knowing what was coming. Susan picked up the rib with both hands and bit down. The sound of tearing flesh echoed through the cafeteria. Her incisors, those flat, seemingly useless teeth that other species mocked, punched through the meat. Her canines, small compared to true predators but sharp enough, found purchase. She pulled, and a chunk of protein separated from the bone with a wet sound that made several students' translation devices emit distress signals. She chewed methodically, her jaw moving in the distinctive grinding pattern that allowed humans to process both plant and animal matter. Then she swallowed and took another bite, and another. The academy students watched in horrified fascination as Susan worked her way through the rib. Her technique was efficient, stripping meat from bone with a precision that spoke to millennia of evolutionary refinement. When her teeth couldn't tear the tougher sections, she used her hands, the opposable thumbs that had once crafted spears and tools now working to maximize caloric intake. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Vexthor's scales had gone pale. When Susan finally reached the bone itself, clean, white, glistening, she paused. Then, maintaining eye contact with the instructor, she lifted it to her mouth and began to scrape the remaining marrow with her teeth. Her tongue worked along the surface, gathering every last trace of nutrition. The sound of bone against teeth made several students flee the cafeteria. When she finished, Susan set down the completely clean bone. Not a scrap of meat remained. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and stood. Humans survived Ice Age's droughts and megafauna that would terrify every species in this room. She said quietly, "We climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. We didn't do it with venom or armor. We did it with this," she tapped her temple, and this, she touched her stomach, intelligence and the will to survive. She walked past Vexthor, who had gone completely still. "We're not apex predators despite being weak, Instructor," Susan added over her shoulder. "We're apex predators because we refuse to be prey." Lucas caught up with her outside the cafeteria. "That was necessary," Susan finished. "They needed to understand." Behind them in the cafeteria, Vexthor stared at the clean bone on the table. For the first time in his long teaching career, he had no witty commentary, no dismissive remarks. He simply updated his lecture notes with trembling manipulators, human predatory capabilities, previously underestimated. Recommend caution in future interactions. The bone gleamed under the lights, picked absolutely clean, a small monument to humanity's refusal to be underestimated ever again.